This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, I cannot hear you, but I imagine you can hear me.
Yes, and you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you now.
And I'm just changing microphones because I need to get into a rhythm of using these damn things. I'm so sorry I'm late.
No worries.
I can probably think of an excuse, but it would take too long.
Yeah, don't get more late just because the excuse.
Exactly. I just got to kiss Edgar and Emily goodbye. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was planning this meeting so that I could put up with them leaving, and then guess what? He is leaving early today, so he started orchestra. So exciting. Right. So a couple of things. First of all, isn't it nice how nice things are now?
Yes. Do you mean like world politics or something else?
No, definitely
Okay.
not politics. No, I just mean with Dini. It's all good.
Yes.
I think our half an hour meeting on Mondays is crucial. We talk some about the project. In general, we just talk about this and whatever. So
Yes. I think it's a little bit to briefly go on that. It's what we miss when working remotely. It's not necessarily, I don't know, like the kind of discipline or whatnot. It's more like the coffee break where we have some like excuse to like talk about random stuff, and then usually it's venting about something or someone or in something that can't become like a PowerPoint, can't be too official basically. And I think when we have like one-on-one time, even though it might be structured or not, it's still like there is an opportunity basically for fixing things that can't be too formal or shared with too many people.
yes, a couple of things on that. First of all, should I maybe text to a different number when I text you?
I have only one number, so if you want to text to me, you should text to this one.
No, but hang on. When I text to you, it's the 4801 number, right?
Yes.
So do you not get that on your normal phone? Do you only get that on your Apple device?
I only have an Apple device as a phone.
Oh, okay, fine. Because sometimes it's just because then I can do things like I can speak, tell Fabien blah blah and stuff. I just use messages in that a lot more than I use Slack or anything. Okay, but that's fine. There was some other details. Yeah, I had a good chat with Mark yesterday, about 45 minutes. And it was just one of those making sure our language connects, because clearly now we agree on the important bits. And I think it's really important, obviously, to have Mark on board with the data side of things and the kind of academic side. So that's really good. Also, I got fiber internet yesterday.
Congratulations.
Oh, it was very, very exciting. So 10 minutes of recording of Zoom is each 10 minutes is uploaded in less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
So it's what we call fast. It's glorious. And I'm getting some Ethernet cables today for my computer, so it should make it even faster, not Wi-Fi.
That's the way.
So that's good. Right. So I think in the time we have today, we have about 21 minutes left. I really want to talk to you primarily about the things in our world. But first of all, anything that you would like to discuss, young man?
No, just like I mentioned, I think yesterday that I did some good progress, and don't worry about. Yes, I can mention this. So I did some good. Maybe progress is the wrong word, but I've done some interesting code-based exploration that I want to share with you and Dini, and that I hope I will share in a way that you can directly play with it, and that hopefully should be a good, how can I say, good basis for the year to come. And if it's not, it's okay. I think we will have learned something. But yeah, on the remark, I think you're like, you don't, you say something like, I don't want you to go too far or work too much on this. So if I'm interested in the topic, yeah, don't worry. Like at worst, I learned something. And if it's like only tangentially related to the project, or we don't find that it's actually so useful, I'm not going to hold it against anyone that, I'm digging there deep because I believe in it. And yeah, it's actually cool, but not so relevant. I take it at, let's say, as at my cost or at my expense of time. So, but I'll take some bets like this when I think there is potential. I'm okay, bearing the cost of the learning or the attempts. Obviously, there were still like relatively small explorations. It's not like I'm going to go like 3 months full time, contacting nobody and just going into it. So that will never happen because I don't think that makes sense. But yeah, little exploration like this that I'm rather confident will benefit us all will happen.
Yes, and that is one of the key reasons I wanted to work with you officially. That is for you to go off and do whatever because you're self-motivated. So if it turns out that something is not relevant, we really need to get into the habit, both of us, to document that. That's worth a page, right? So we did this. It was absolutely ridiculous, so stupid. How bad are we? Ha ha ha! So funny, but actually we learned this, right? It's research. There are very few things that I want to have at the end of this. What I have at the end of want to have at the end of this is there's got to be some JSON in and outs, which will be dictated by you. There's got to be some kind of a knowledge map type thing, because that's one of the models that's really easy to demonstrate, having individual pieces move about. And within that, and this is the thing, I don't think most of the team understands the amount of fiddly detail, not polishing for product, but just for interaction of, okay, so we have lots of things in our space, how do we move them? It's really going to be a massive issue. And I think that's, anyway, another thing I forgot is we plan to come to Brussels on Friday the 21st, staying till the 23rd. Does that suit you guys?
Nope, not anymore. So I double check, and we already have friends on those days. It would be a little bit messy. So ideally earlier or later, but it's not ideal, sadly.
Fine. Okay, I texted Emily that. Right, so let's do screen sharing. And first, as I do, I'm going to show you a little bit of author because that's how I think, and it's like a step. I have my journal, as you know, and here I have a link to a document.
Yeah.
Jump to it like that, super simple. On the map, I have now started, when I add to a link to a document on here, I get this big space to write a definition or a description of it, right? So in the same way that I can write a definition of a person or here testing with keywords from AI, human made or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's pasted in here manually anyway. That's what's now going to be available for a document. This is the kind of stuff that I think would be really important to pass about. I've been trying to figure out how to deal with citation dialogues for this. So I've added a field description, which is exactly what we just looked at for the normal one. And then I have a button at the bottom that says metadata. In the metadata, what I want to have from reader is any of Dini highlights. Any of those things should be in the metadata. Not that you can use it here, but when it goes to your environment, if you want to have all the metadata of where externally someone highlighted something being interesting, you need to have that available to you.
Yeah.
So on that note, if we now go, hang on. What am I doing? Oh, we have. I have the Zoom thing in the way. So I'm jumping to this document. Going to close this one. Right. So this is how I view our world. This is the core of today. So you can see the screen well, right?
Yeah.
Our goal, which has to be constantly reaffirmed, is for users to be able to work in a visually and interactive hypertextual environment where they can do massive things. A volume, I think, so I just have two objects in my mental world of this, and this is the key thing we need to agree on or not. A volume is a collection of stuff. An object is the stuff. That's it. There are no other things in the world. This volume should be, a basic volume should be able to be written as a list, either manually by hand or in JSON, right? So that means, because one of the issues we have intellectually, I think, is starting from author, the kind of objects we have in here is a defined concept, a reference. Now we also want in our world to have a normal document cut into sections based on headings, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at it as volumes and objects, then we could take a document and cut it up like this, right? But the thing is that it's important that we keep it simple, obviously, which is why we're having this chat. And that is extendable into different views. One of them is a relatively traditional narrative. By narrative, in this context, I mean giving the reader user the opportunity to follow a path. That can be through links, it can be through making it look like a linear document, it can be many ways, but it cannot, on export, so to speak, just be a loose map always. Sometimes it will be, but if you want to make a point to someone, such as an academic, it has to say, here's an introduction, here's the data I used, and so on, right?
But isn't already what a list does?
Yes. That's why these things are interlinked, absolutely. Also, one of the technical points I've realized, because I've been using these, so here is okay, so this thing here is just text.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing defined or anything. So if I now export this, by the way, this will not be in the glossary, even though it's on the map, right? So to be able to select things based on criteria and stuff, as you know, is going to be very important. Hang on, I'm confusing myself. Oh yeah, but I found two things. First of all, connecting to a document, let's say I want to link to hypertext and XR, that's cool, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's got things happening. But sometimes I don't know what document I want to link to. So that is why it is very important to be able to link to a folder. So that's a completely new feature. And of course, logically, it's just another object. But here's the folder liquid. Double click on that, jump, and it opens the folder.
Mm-hmm.
That is key. Secondly, it's really important to be able to, here's my journal so far. December, if I want to link to this heading, I should be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I can, of course, whether I'm on the map or not, and that's just text. If I do link to heading internally, here it is. That's not a problem. That's super easy. So I put that wherever I want, double click, and it jumps to that heading. But of course, I mean externally. So I really think we need to have some sort of a means, schema, method, whatever, of linking to different levels. We link to a volume, and then we have slash or brackets or whatever it is. This is the bit inside that's addressable that I really want to get to, like literally a page number.
Yeah.
So I know this is obvious and clear, and it's just from my use trying to mess up and clean up this stuff. It's becoming more and more important. So that was kind of the intro bit. Glad we agree. At least we agree that you get it. You may not agree yet, but that's fine. So for the volume design, I have written arbitrarily from my little brain, core required. The thing needs to have a name and probably an ID, which should probably be something like name plus time of creation or similar, whatever we decide on. And this is one of the crucial ones, a type. Is this volume a map? Is it a list of defined terms? Is it a citation list? Is it your home desktop? Whatever.
Yeah.
Even for the core ones, it's okay to have a default that is simply just stuff, but it's got to have something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a list of stuff that is inside it. Now, because of you, this can be empty, and maybe we have view information in here, layout information.
Mm-hmm.
So for what I currently call context, and super happy to change any and all of this naming. This is just to spark a discussion. So in context, there is the AR, the real world location of this, and by real world, that also means virtual. So let's say you're in a VR office and you have a wall designated left wall. This should know that, so it'll automatically open on your left wall. Stuff we've discussed a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I can read this, but just to run through, it might be nested. Very rarely, I think you'll have something owned by another volume, but maybe. Create a person, time, all of that stuff. And then we have view information in software. This is a placeholder where, let's say me for author do something special that you don't want to implement. I need somewhere to put it so it can go into your world. When it comes back out, my software can still do the special stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to volume, does that sound relatively reasonable?
Yes.
You're saying a lot of yeses. I'm getting worried.
So if you want not just a yes, how it makes sense, first of all. The bit on VR, like sticking on the wall and whatnot, I would still add it, like under AR, for example, location, like your location. And I don't know how to say it, but I think they were called, I don't remember actually. I'll have to look at the specs, but basically to clarify this, because I don't think it's obvious, even though we did discuss it a few times. And the other part is from an implementation standpoint, in terms of prototyping, it's a bit like a lazy loading, or it's like you don't load stuff until you actually need it. And here, like there would be metadata and the context with a part of it, but and it's going to be, let's say, explicited as you did, but it's probably not going to be implemented until it's used, because otherwise you get a bunch of fields, a bunch of empty stuff that might still lead to errors, but they don't have benefits yet. Yeah. But for example, as soon as there is, for example, last edited time, I actually implemented that, or last modified time on Friday due to an upload feature. And I was like, well, how do I showcase to Frode and Dini that it's new stuff first, or rather that upload works, is I put the new stuff first. And because of this, I had to use modified time. But I did not do that until that very moment, because otherwise, if you try to be completionist with prototyping, you end up doing a lot of stuff that's not actually new, and thus that's arguably boring and thus counterproductive, like to the task at hand. So listing them there, making it explicit, especially if we, with the hope of others might be collaborating with us on it, absolutely. In terms of, let's say, me coding it, I suggest not to do anything until it's like there is a feature behind it. For example, I don't know, like owner account person, until it's multi-user. Like it's going to be a comment on the code at most, but there is not going to be like a whole like crud with a database of people and whatnot until we say, oh, that's the one thing we want to test is what if we did this together, or what if we had the same database but it's files only for Frode and not for Dini and the other way around.
Yeah, I agree largely. There are a few things like created place. We don't even know if we have access to the place, right? But that could be a really useful thing, such as, oh, I want to see the things I created here last week. But yes, I agree with you in principle, right? So just skimming through, we don't have that much time. On the knowledge object, it's the same kind of logic. We need to decide on a core. Maybe there's only one or two items, but obviously you decide. This, I'm going to obviously email you this or send you this. Spatiality, these are just relatively simple things, as in I haven't given any detail. Manually connects to lists. In my system, you cannot do that. You cannot manually drag something over to another, but I expect in the world it should be possible. So that's one to add. And then finally, and really, really importantly, is the appearance. The end user needs to be able to choose from at least themes easily. And me, as your partner who is partly responsible for the visual design, I need to be able to test it really simply. So if I have somewhere I can paste a hex value, that would be really, really useful.
Yes, and I was thinking actually the 3D model for the background also. For example, if there is something called background.glb and you upload it and you don't get to ask me, because honestly, that's the kind of thing I'll get tired of. It's like, oh, I need this change of color, I need this change of background, all this. I'm like, yes, absolutely, please do it. Like, don't bother me with it, because it's not that it's not important. It's just like I don't bring a lot of value there, so I get tired because I also know that this is the kind of thing that needs a ton of iterations, and I don't have the patience for it. So it's definitely something like changing, let's say, broadly appearance that is important and can be extremely finicky, and where again I can't help much. So the upload system that I worked on is precisely for this, so that you don't necessarily change the code, but you change as much of the content and thus the appearance as is feasible without you risking breaking it, basically. That's kind of the mindset there.
Okay, yeah, that's really, really important. That means that people over time can actually write widgets on other devices to easily modify what's in the world. So that's really cool. There's one more thing I want to discuss with you. I'll obviously send that. So Emily was just texting. We cannot easily go as a family then to Brussels, because those are the dates we have for the holidays and stuff. But I'm going to try to find some other times, weekdays, to try to change that into. So what weekdays are best for you at the moment? For me to come as a day, like I've been doing?
It's pretty open, to be honest. Just suggest it before and I'll check, but normally it's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking maybe next Wednesday then, so that, anyway, we'll do that later. Right. There is one other thing that this is an author feature, so I'll make a new window. Name a topic that might be something someone might want to write a paper about.
Virtual reality.
A little more than that, like virtual reality.
For academic research.
So this is about AI, warning you now. Control menu, and I have a new function called generate outline. And ChatGPT is still slow, so remember, it knows about who I am and my interests, and I have pre-written these prompts that have specific things, some long, some short. So here, this is what it gave us. So the idea is for a student to copy this into their paper, because it isn't content, it's suggestions for what to write. And at the bottom, it has key people. Janet Murray, Jaron Lanier, technologies. Obviously, they're not up to date because of the thing. I find that really, really useful to help people think. I'm kind of shocked at how well it works, actually. So I hope that with the kind of components we're building, we can do this kind of thing, not now, not in this year, but at some point, bring these things to help people shape things, not generate stuff, but to give them scaffolding, for some further thinking. So here is French music. So at the bottom here, we have all these people. Well, do you know Jean-Baptiste Lully? It's cool, right? I think it's kind of crazy. Contribution of French philosophers to music theory, for example, Rousseau. I'm a bit shocked. So it's just something that I'm adding for my users. I just wanted to mention because it's a completely different world, that kind of stuff, just like XR is. So it's, yeah, weird.
So the goes back a little while ago, but what I prepared for the symposium on the back end, which is to be able to convert files. You would send a PDF, for example, and you get JPEG out in order to be able to display them. I'm kind of doing this for the front end now, and it's done the same way in terms of architecture. So it's basically middlewares. So it's one filter after the other. Like you transform an object and then you pass it to the next filter. If it's appropriate, for example, it's PDF and you have a filter for PDF, it does something. So you could imagine this being applied to AI or generation or summarization or whatever. Maybe it's one filter after another, and those could be prompt sent to an LLM or whatever. And why do I mention it is because one of the last thing I did, I made a very small filter, which is like, hey, if it's a PNG, you just say in the console, it's a PNG. And the goal there is that help others define such filters so that if you want to say, hey, this is a summarization filter. So when you get a piece of text, like actual text made out of words and characters, then it's compatible with this kind of filters. And thus, if you want to summarize or generate an outline, or say kind of the opposite of summarizing or unfolding it, you could do that. But the whole point about explaining this is that the architecture makes it up to the user to add. You can imagine filters as plugin. You're into this kind of stuff, you put this kind of stuff. You're not into it, it's not in there.
I think that is perfect. One of the reasons it's perfect is for Liquid, the tool that I had developed a while ago, it does almost nothing. It's a redirect mechanism. Mm-hmm. I get the power of whatever. When it comes to the AI thing, I was slow to work with it, but I decided the only thing I can do as a tiny developer is the interface. Cannot develop my own AI, although of course I want to run LLMs locally when useful. And now we see the DeepSeek China thing, and reports of Apple executives smiling because they didn't invest in the LLMs, they invested in the user experience. I'm not saying they did a good job, that's kind of irrelevant. But what I think we are doing correctly here is we're building an environment of XR elements that people can mechanically or LLM or whatever through your plugin architecture, through filters, deploy as they see fit, as the technology is relevant.
Yep.
That is
one of my motivation for this project and for any project I participate to, and the whole open source thing with all the constraints I add to others and their workflow, is the whole point of empowerment. Namely, like, again, you want to use a filter that I don't agree with even, that's fine. So that's why I think the architecture choices are so important.
Yeah. I have to go pick up the car. You have things to do too. As far as that kind of list that I'll send to you, I'll clean it up a bit. I'll send it a bit later today. Do you have any initial comments of change or how it relates to what you're currently doing?
No, as I said, right now it makes sense. My only warning is in terms of implementation. I'll be lazy in the same of sense as lazy loading. It's not going to be implemented until there is something that needs it. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. And then my priority with our work is to, okay, so the expectation is someone sitting at their desk and they can stretch their arms out. So that means they're far enough from a monitor or there is a laptop closed. And in that space, they can move things about and see author style connections or not, depending on what the three of us want to do. But they have the potential for that kind of stuff. And then to develop the means through which they can do group selections. So I really look forward to the hand menu, arm menu, all of those experiments. So the fact that we're now working on a substrate, not a substrate, working on a set of data objects that we the three of us agree kind of what they are, that's kind of good enough to experiment.
It's definitely good enough to start. Quick technical also detail from the stuff done on Friday and yesterday. It's also the as I mentioned, I added metadata in terms of last modified time, but basically each each file now has extendable metadata, including modified time, MIME types, all this. So it also means if we want to add more, like the one of the list you sent, that's not a problem. It also means if you want me to still like have the field ready even though it's not used, if you generate it, if you make it a JSON, I can probably like load the JSON, add the empty fields. I'm honestly not sure that would be very useful again because it has to quack like a duck and fly and everything to be a duck, not just like have the duck name under it. So I think adding all the metadata could still, even though the metadata field, even though being empty, could still be done. I'm not sure it's worth it, but again, with the architecture now, it's feasible.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that is very good.